Hey, what's up everyone? How's it going? This is Woj. Hope you guys are all doing well. And in this video, we'll be doing a direct head-to-head graphics card comparison between the EVGA version of the GTX 980 that I've been using for quite some time now versus the brand new AMD R9 390X. Now, specifically in this video, we're going to be focusing on a couple of different things comparing these two graphics cards, especially when it comes to the power consumption and efficiency, the TDP, as well as the gaming performance. So if you're interested in seeing how the brand new flagship AMD graphics card compares against the upper end spectrum of what NVIDIA has to offer with the GTX 980. Stay tuned and let's find out which graphics card comes out on top. Now, I understand that both of these cards aren't the best graphic cards you can get in the market when it comes to performance. There are faster cards both from AMD and NVIDIA, but they're in that kind of mainstream, higher end spectrum of graphics cards for serious gamers. So we're going to see how both flagship cards compare against each other. The first thing that we're going to take a look at are just the essential specifications of both GPUs. Taking a look at the GTX 980 from EVGA, it has a base clock of about 1266 megahertz, 1367 megahertz in terms of its boost clock. We have over 2048 CUDA cores. In terms of memory, we're using 4 gigabytes of GDDR5, clocked at around over 7000 megahertz. It has a 256-bit memory bus, and in terms of the ports, it's pretty standard affair with 3 DisplayPort 1.2 connections, 1 HDMI 2 connections, and 2 dual-link DVI connections. Our MSI 390X is pretty standard for a 390X. They're all pretty much the same, regardless of what brands you're choosing at this point. So that comes with a stock GPU frequency of about 1100 megahertz. You can overclock it to about 1170 megahertz. If you go beyond that, it becomes a little bit unstable. In terms of the memory clock frequencies, the stock configuration is 1525 megahertz, and you can overclock your memory frequency up to 1550 megahertz. Now, in terms of the memory, you actually get quite a lot for your money. You basically get 8 gigabytes of a GDDR5, which is really impressive to see. Also, in terms of memory bandwidth, you have almost double the bandwidth at 512 bits compared to the 256-bit bandwidth we have on the GTX 980. In terms of stream processors, we have 2816 stream processors, and that's pretty similar to what we found last year in the 290X, and again, connectivity is also very similar to last year's card as well. Now, the first thing that we're going to take a look at is the cooling performance of both of these two graphics cards. Now, we're both using the stock coolers. On the EVGA side, we're using the ACX 2.0 cooler, which is a double ball bearing swiped fan design. It's supposed to use a lot less power than previous generation ACX coolers, and the fans can also actively turn off if they're not being used that heavily or on idle. Now, our 390X is using MSI's Zero Frozer cooler. It's pretty much very similar to EVGA's ACX cooler. Both are 94 millimeters in terms of size, and they both have a very similar heatsink design as well. Now, the first thing that we're going to quickly compare is the fan noise of both these two coolers. So basically on idle, both fans can actually turn off or when they're not in heavy use. So there's 0 decibels in terms of that. But when you start to load up both GPUs, they're fairly quiet and fairly similar in terms of the decibel count. 39 decibels on the 980 side and about 41 decibels on MSI's 390X. Now, in terms of the temperature and efficiency of how they both cool the GPUs on idle, again, very similar. Basically, both of them are hovering around 36, 35 degrees C. And when you load them up, the GTX 980 is a very efficient card, very power efficient, and the cooler does a great job of lowering the overall temperatures at maximum load to 72 degrees Celsius versus about 81 degrees Celsius on the 390X. Now, this might mean that you might have a little bit of overclocking advantage on the 980, but not by much, because both cards run pretty efficiently and pretty cool, generally speaking. Now, let's talk about the power consumption of both of these cards. Now, the way I measured it is I just measured my entire system power consumption, both on idle and on load. Now, the specifications you can see right over here, we're basically using an Intel 5820K processor based around the X99S motherboard platform from MSI, 64 gigs of DDR4. You can see the entire specification list and all the parts in the description down below. Now, to load up both GPUs to about 100%, I just used FurMark, and our system with the 980 hit about 376 watts versus about 448 watts on the 390X. So you can see that 390X is definitely going to use a lot more power when you are loading up the GPUs to about 100%. Now again, you have to keep in mind that when you are just gaming, your power consumption is not going to be as high as measured over here, but generally speaking, the 390X is certainly going to use a lot more power than the very efficient GTX 980. Now with all that stuff out of the way, let's finally take a look at the gaming performance of each graphics card. Now what we're going to be doing is taking a look at the average frames per second score on a whole bunch of different titles, and each of the games are going to be played at 3 different resolutions, including full HD, quad HD, and 4K resolution, so you have a good idea on how each graphics card performs at different resolutions depending upon which game you're playing, so we have a good side-by-side comparison. So let's not hold back any further. Let's go ahead and take a look at the performance results and see which card comes out on top. Now, as you saw from the results, generally speaking, the GTX 980 is the faster GPU. That's really no surprise considering its price bracket, but the real nice thing is that the R9 390X really gives you quite a bit for your money. Now, even though it's still not as fast as the 980, in most gaming titles at pretty high resolutions, you're going to get fairly good results. Is this a big difference from the 290X that this thing is replacing? I would say definitely not. It's a minor improvement and a minor refresh of the card. But if you are on the market for a higher end AMD card that won't completely break the bank and give you almost GTX 980 performance, this is definitely not a bad option. But really, other than that, guys, that's really it. Love to hear all your guys' thoughts and opinions in the comment section and down below. Definitely give us a thumbs up if you like this video, helped you out in any way, and check out the links in the description where you'll find the product links to everything we talked about in this video. Again, if you go through any of our Amazon links, it's kind of a sponsor for us, because if you go through those links, it doesn't cost you anything extra. You get the products at a really good price, and we get a little bit of kickback that helps make all these videos possible. Thank you so much for your support again, and we'll see you later. Take care.